Hello, everyone. Pavla,
Hey,
hello. We have some eager beavers on with us already. Natasha, Lena, it's great to see you. I'm admitting a few more. Look at this. They're jumping in like anything. It's fantastic. So I'm going to pull up just two slides to introduce you, Havla,
okay,
and then right on time, we will get started.
great.
Natasha, Lena, Nicole, Jason, you don't have to stay on mute. You can join in, get the conversation started. We love engagement. We love conversation. None of us bite, especially Havila.
Well, usually.
Sounds good. I'm just gonna heat up some lunch here, so I'm not gonna make you guys watch me eat that.
All good.
Fair
Thanks,
enough.
Jason.
I'll be right back.
Havila, I'm going to try to unblur my background so you can see my background. You can't see, but it's a snow flurry here.
I will say it is very cold here right now, much colder than normal. And
By
my
comparison,
house is
by
not
Florida
built for
standards.
cold, so it's kind of like a meat locker in my house. Like my heat has not turned off in like 4 days. We got a message from the electrical company, like everybody in our area was like, please stop running your heat so much. I'm like, my house is freezing. So yeah, we're a little in shell shock right now. But that, I don't miss that. Don't want any part of that.
I was going to say,
It's very bright and sunny today, so we will actually warm up a little bit today finally. But it's been cold and cloudy, and we actually had like snow globe flurries here. Like,
I heard that,
yeah,
I think.
like for real. And sleet.
Can
So,
you see my screens?
Going to be a
yes,
My,
meeting.
ma'am.
it does say employers of choice.
Yes.
Okay. So I just have the two slides, Havila, and then I'll stop presenting.
Okay. I
And
only
this,
have, I think, 5 slides total. One is a question, is
okay.
a title sheet, and one is a question. So it's very simple. Basically, you're mostly going to have to listen to me talk. But it'll be good. It'll be good.
It'll
If
be
I look
very,
down,
very
it's because
good.
I'm reading, because let's just say PowerPoint and I tend to have a problem.
I like making sure I have my facts straight too, so I refer
Yeah.
to notes quite often as well.
Well,
Um,
I also tend to wander around. Like I'll get a little excited about something and we'll take a hard left and I'll be like, wait, that's not what I'm supposed to be saying. So it's
well,
also my
and
my guardrails.
we've noticed that our audiences, Lena, I think especially can attend to this. Lena's been on lots of our sessions so far. It's a really engaged audience, so you may
Oh,
well
good.
find that there's discussion early on.
Oh, good, because I have
Um,
questions. I need answers.
that's fantastic. This group is going to be good for that. I just
Awesome.
put that out there early. Julia, welcome. I will point out and have a just before the end, as a reminder, we'll Dan, our technical guy in the hiding in the back end, he'll pop up the survey at the very end, just so
Okay.
we get a bit of feedback that way.
Perfect. Perfect.
I'm admitting people as we go. Teresa, welcome. Thanks for joining. We'll get started right at 12 p.m. Eastern on the nose.
This avocado's on its last days.
Well, it's so sad. It's the worst feeling. One of my favorites.
Oh, it's so frustrating when you open an avocado up and you're like, I'm gonna put it on a sandwich or I'm gonna have it on something, and then it's like smells weird and it's lumpy and it's got black ickiness in
Got
it.
brown spots.
Oh, yeah.
The
Like that's
worst.
the saddest part. But thank you for sharing that, Jason. It is a very sad moment when your avocado is struggling.
You're welcome.
especially because it's one of those things that you, for me, I look forward to it. Like I buy them ahead of time and I
Yeah.
plan for it, and then won't.
Well, I've also learned that, well, at least where I am in the States, they have trained avocado trees in Mexico to produce in February because of the Super Bowl and all the guacamole that gets made. No, I'm not kidding. And so the best time to buy avocados in the States is actually February, and then again in like July when they're ripe in California. But everything in between that is a little iffy. But yeah, no, like right now is the bumper avocado crop because it's Super Bowl time and next weekend actually. And so yeah, it's avocados everywhere.
I
So
think
yeah,
I've heard that once before. It's still
it's baffling, but yes,
really, really baffling.
it's funny.
Imagine how much extra beer they make.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Though the interestingly enough, alcohol consumption, at least in the US, is way down year over year right now, like way down, significantly down. And it's partly because Gen Z is not drinking the way that Gen X did, or that even the millennials. And a lot of the millennials and a lot of the older Gen X's are going, yeah, alcohol's not really something I need in my life. And so there's been a massive, like, very quiet, like, turn away from alcohol. And so it's really affecting. I mean, like, distilleries, like, they're saying, I read an article the other day that said distilleries and wineries have so much inventory, they're basically going to have to start selling it off at below cost because they've not been selling enough of it. So yeah, it's interesting.
So it's extra funny because of the tariffs. In Ontario, where we are, um, our provincial leader stopped us from being able to buy American wine. I wonder if that changes because there's so much inventory.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, also it's part of, but a lot of it they're really tracing it to demand in the U.S. Like they're looking at U.S. demand went from extraordinarily high in 2020, 2017 to 2020 was a very high level of alcohol consumption. And after 2022, like around 23, everything started falling off. And last year was one of the lowest years for alcohol consumption in the US.
That's
So
remarkable,
it's
especially
interesting.
given the stress people are under.
Right. But again,
Very
it's
cool.
very like there's just been this quiet movement of moving away from alcohol as a coping mechanism. And I think it was because everybody went a little overboard.
So we're right at 12 o'clock and we've
Yes.
got lots of people coming in. So right now I'm seeing 22, 23, probably more. You can all see my screen. I'm going to hide this one so I don't get distracted. It's lots and lots of names on my screen right now. David, Jason, Andrea, Mark, great to see your faces. We love to see more faces for anyone who's brave. Um, I am especially delighted and thrilled to invite Havila to our EOC session today, our Employers of Choice session today. To me, what Havila speaks on and her passion as equally as it is mine is culture and building cultures that people can thrive in, that people really believe in because they help, they make employers of choice. So Havila, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Um, Havila is going to speak to how to build a culture of raving fan employees. Um, I've got Havila's bio on the screen here. Havila, would you like to take questions throughout or at the end?
I will take questions throughout.
Okay,
I'll also
so
do some at the
everyone,
end too. So
sounds good. So everyone, feel free to unmute yourself as you'd like to ask questions. You don't need to wait for me to read them off the chat. I will absolutely be moderating the chat and chiming in with questions. I would love to hear you ask them, especially yourselves, because you understand where you're coming from. You're able to go back and forth with your tone so that Havila truly understands your question. So with that, Havila, I give you the mic.
nice. Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for inviting me. I'm very, very privileged to be here. I am going to share my screen when you're done presenting. I have very few slides, but basically just kind of the highlights so that you guys don't have to try and remember all of it. Um, so let's see if I can make this work. Hold on, let me see if I can make that a presenter view instead of having to see all my slides at the same time. Hang on a second. Here we go. There we go. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I cannot see comments in this, so I will rely on you, Lindsay, to stop me if we have comments. So,
Excellent.
just really shortly, my name is Havala, and I have been in the human capital space, which is your employees, for oh gosh, close to 30 years, like between about 27 years at this point. I literally fell into this by accident. I didn't know this was actually a job until I landed in it. Um, I didn't understand that this was something that I did very naturally and intrinsically. I grew up in construction. My parents owned a construction company. I worked in their office. I was actually a laborer for them. We did disaster recovery, which was insurance work. So if you'd had a fire, a water damage, wind damage, something like that, we would come in. We would work with your contents. We would work with your house. We would get it all back to right. Plus, we did custom builds and commercial buildings. So I worked in the construction industry growing up, answered phones. Again, I did some really dirty work as well, like just scraping soot and washing content. And so it was very interesting for me to work in the field with my parents' employees when it had been a number of years since my dad had been out there swinging hammers. And my mom had never done it. She was always in the back office. So when I would come and talk to my parents about what I was hearing and seeing from an employee perspective, I was already doing what I ended up getting paid later in life to do and just didn't realize it, right? It was helping them understand where the disconnect was between the front office and the people actually doing the work and how that was affecting how their employees were showing up, what kind of work production they were creating, and how their customers were experiencing our company. So that's sort of the how I got into this by accident. I thought I was going to do politics when I got out of school. I was in the poli sci major. It did not work well for me. That was not a good fit. I really liked the information, didn't like the whole process. And so I ended up in recruiting, in talent acquisition. And again, did not even know that was a job until I got there. And I was like, oh, I can get paid to do this? Awesome. So that's how I ended up there, the 27, 28 years ago. And over time, it has morphed out of just recruiting and become much more consulting in and around culture and people and process. And really, at the bottom line, we hear a lot about culture. It's a big buzzword out in the world, whether you're in a tech company or a landscaping company or a construction company or a service company, everybody's talking about company culture. Thing is, most people get it wrong. Most companies get it wrong. And in the 90s, when I was cutting my teeth in this industry and in the early 2000s, it was all about the culture of we have ping pong tables and pizza parties and it's so great. And I was in tech, but they were working these people to their death and their turnover was terrible and their retention was terrible. But we do all these fun things. It didn't matter. The communication was terrible, leadership was terrible, decision making was always bottlenecked or broken. So they were missing what was actually culture. And so as I observed this and worked through it and lived in it, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. There has to be something better. It has to be simpler. It can't be complicated and it can't be really expensive. Like there has to be a way. And that was where it brought me back to thinking about what were the things that I heard from the people that were changing jobs as a recruiter. So I was talking to both the managers and the candidates. What was I hearing? Where was the disconnect? Why were people leaving jobs? Why were they finding other companies? What was it that really was driving somebody to leave? And at the end of the day, it was always culture. It was always the number one thing. But it wasn't the perks or the benefits. It was what made the company who they are, what they do, how they do it. So what culture really is it's the embodiment of who you are as a company, how you show up. And there's a really simple formula that I've come up with to building this. And it does not matter if you're a teeny tiny little company with two employees, maybe just yourself right now, but you're looking to grow, or you're a company with 150, 200 employees. It doesn't matter. The formula works regardless of where you are. And the sooner you implement it, the better you go and the more likely you are to get success faster and to build a stronger company. So, my first question to all of you is, I'd love to hear three or four people tell me, what do you think culture means? Like I've just told you what it's not. So what do you think culture actually is?
Uh,
Jason, you're muted, Jason.
Okay. So I think if everyone has a voice, then you have a culture in some
A
way.
voice, how does everyone get a voice?
I think people need to be heard, have provide opportunities for people to contribute within a business in one way or another. That's either
Okay.
like making day-to-day decisions, speaking out when they need to say something, whatever, kind of listening to their needs and just kind of treating them as human beings. I,
Okay. I love that. Okay.
that's my take, I guess.
Great.
So we've got Christina next and Mark after that, and we
Yeah.
have one in the chat.
I think there needs to be some clarity around what your values are, like
Okay.
in the organization.
Okay. Excellent.
And
Mark?
Mark?
Yeah, I think it's all captured in your value, vision, and mission.
Okay.
If you've got that really, really clear and on point, then it
Mhm.
should be relating to um, anybody that plugs into it.
Great. Awesome. Those
And
are all great.
David in the chat says clear shared values. So chiming in with everyone else there. Also integrity when it comes to those things.
Okay. All of that is true, but it's not the only part of it. That's only a piece of it. Each one of you gave me a piece of it. And this is where we're going to jump kind of straight in. Let's see if oh, look at that. Technology worked. I'm very excited. It's the small wins. Let me tell you. Culture, so when you Google culture or you ask chat, what is culture? It's defined as the shared personality, values, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that define how a company operates and how employees interact. And it's the processes, systems, and ways of doing business. And here is where most people miss the processes, systems, and ways of doing business. That is the very foundation of what culture is. So it's not the fancy stuff you do. It's not the fun stuff you do. It's not the cute mission and values that you put up on the wall and say, look at what we are. It's the processes, systems, and ways you show up every single day doing business. How you interact when someone challenges you, how you interact when there's a mistake, how you respond when people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, how you respond when people are doing above and beyond. Do you have clear career paths? Do you have a clear and concise hiring process? Do you know what to do when somebody leaves or you need to exit them? These are the things that are boring, that seem very unimportant, but they are the very foundation of what culture is. And this is what most people miss. The second half of it is what a number of you said. It's the vision, mission, and philosophy of business on display daily. It is reflected in how you treat every person who comes in contact with your business, employees, and your customers. So, why I champion a raving fan culture, a raving fan employee culture is if you want raving fan customers, you have to have raving fan employees. Because if your employees are not happy, you don't have a functioning company. And it doesn't matter if you are, again, the industry is irrelevant in some ways, but for you guys, happy employees will make happier customers fast because you're a service-based industry and you are helping people create a sense of well-being. And you're like, yeah, but we do landscape. How is that a sense of well-being? Think of it this way. The very first thing a customer sees when they come to a business is their landscape, right? How they show up, what their landscape looks like. Do they feel like it's bright and cheerful and welcoming? Does it feel safe? Does it feel inviting? Does it make the business look friendly, warm, inviting? Or does it make them look cold and stark and sort of disconnected? So, as much as it might sound strange, your people and your business directly affects your customer's business. Same thing with someone's home. Does their landscaping make them come home and go, gosh, I love my yard. I love the way my house looks with my bushes and my trees and my plants, and everything just looks beautiful and I feel good about it, right? So, as much as you're like, yeah, we just do landscaping, how does that have anything to do with well-being? It does because it affects how people view their space even before they get into their space. So again, I say that simply because I often hear people say, well, that doesn't apply here, but it absolutely does. So the formula is super simple. We're not going to beat around the bush a lot. The formula is super simple. You build the processes, you build them consistently. The first, I have what's called a C4 culture. It's 4 pillars plus some glue that holds it all together. The first pillar is communication. It is communication is everything. And I think Jason brought it up um, in that people need to be heard, but they also need to hear from you. They need to hear from you every day, all day. They need to hear from you in they need to hear from you all the time. Oops, sorry. Okay, we are having a small technical challenge there. Oh my
We've
goodness.
got
Sorry.
some interesting chats, Havla, just so you know. We've
Oh,
got
okay, let me see if I can see those. Stand by.
Olivia is saying first impressions regarding what your landscaping is. That's your first vibe.
Yep.
That's an energy beyond words. It's a feeling. And David points out that he does quite a bit of companion gardening. Meaning that it really does make a difference at those first impressions.
I love that. This is where we come with communication, right? You communicate probably quite well and quite frequently with your customers, but you have to communicate with your employees. If you have a vision and a mission and a share and you want them to share the philosophy of your business, right? Philosophy is the way in which you do your vision and your mission. Philosophy is the thing that is the embodiment of, right? How you lead and how you run your company and how you want other people to show up in your company. So if you need to share that, you need to communicate it. And you need to communicate it far more than you think you do. Not once, not twice, not occasionally, daily. In every interaction you have. You don't have to say it exactly, but building into every conversation what your mission is. Our mission is to and not just what it is to do as a company for your customers, but what kind of business are you building that they want to be a part of? So you communicate with transparency. You communicate frequently. You do it consistently and you make it clear. It's not something that they have to guess at because if you leave gaps, if you are vague, if you create space for rumors and assumptions, they are never going to be the good ones. They're always going to be the bad ones. If things get sticky and business is hurting and you're like, oh, bugger, I gotta now do something about this, communicate that to your employees. If you have to lay people off, sorry, my camera is thinking for itself. If you have to lay people off, which is a horrible thing to have to do, but it does happen in business, do it with transparency. Do it with communication. Why is it happening? We had a really bad year. Things just didn't happen. We had a drought. People's landscape died. We ended up having to do things like whatever it is that's causing the conflict. Or, hey, we're in the process of doing a management change right now. Some things are going to get a little different. Bear with us. Let us know when you're frustrated. We will do what we can to help you out. So transparency is really key in the communication piece. So that's the very foundation of which you build your processes and culture on is communication. When you're hiring people, are you communicating from the beginning? Are you telling them what the expectations of the job are? Are you letting them know what they can do and accomplish in that role? Do they have opportunities going forward if they come in? If they start here, can they get to there? And what does that look like? Are you communicating within your own company and making sure people know what their career paths are? That they understand that if they have a challenge, who they go to and how it's resolved. So communication is just everything. Leadership down, workers across, workers up. Like it is literally a circle. Everybody should be talking. And the communication leads directly into the second part, which is connection. You need to connect with everybody in the company. Now, the bigger your company is, obviously you're not connecting with everybody, but you need to be visible and you need to be approachable. And that's what creates connection. And the connections need to happen horizontally and they need to happen vertically. So that there's no sense of one of the things I absolutely despise, and I see this so often in large companies and tech companies, is what I call the CEO cult, right? So the CEO is like, oh, that's the CEO. Nobody can talk to him. We always talk to him as Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. No, they started out in the desk and doing the work that you did. You are a person. And this is where my recruiting training came in for years. You always talk to that person with respect but as an equal. Not because you are equal, but because you respect that person and you treat them that way so that they understand they're valued, heard, and seen. And that's something that creates that interpersonal and interdepartmental connection. Everybody feels like they can be seen or heard. Obviously, there's boundaries. Obviously, you have to manage that. There are processes that go around that. And that connection and that communication leads into a third thing, which is community. You want people to feel like they're part of something bigger and greater. It is one of the basic needs in the Maslow hierarchy of needs is to belong to something bigger than you are. And considering most of us spend most of our adult life working, it dang well better be at work that we feel like we are part of something bigger. So that's sort of a funny thing that people don't realize, is that community isn't just about what you do in the greater community, it's what kind of community you build inside of your company. And that community part is probably the loudest piece of what your culture really is. What your community inside looks like. Is it inclusive? Is it diverse? Is it have connectedness? Is it showing up outside of in the greater community as well as internally? Is it part, do people feel like they're part of something important, that they're building this company with you and not for you? Because when people are with you, they're going to produce better. They're going to walk through walls for you. They're going to show up even when they don't want to. They're going to know, they're going to do it when it's hard because they know that what they do matters because they're part of a bigger community. It affects their clients. It affects their coworkers. It affects management. Just like when management makes decisions and has things that have to happen, they take into consideration what the ramifications in the community are going to be, and they communicate that and they make sure that it's connected so that everybody is feeling purpose driven, part of something bigger. There's clarity, there's understanding. And then the last piece is care. And this is really this is where it starts to get sticky, right? In that people think care means, well, we have a great benefits package or we have so many days off. Those are benefits. That's not care. It's part of care, but it's not care. Care is how you respond when things get hard for people. Perfect example. I have a colleague who is a bereavement, they do bereavement benefits, is what they work on. And they talk about frequently how you respond when somebody's dealing with bereavement, loss, parent died, God forbid, child, spouse, uncle, cousin, whatever. How you respond to people. Do you give them 3 days and be like, you should be fine? 3 days, you should be totally fine. Or do you take into consideration that this is a life-changing experience that they're going through and they're going to need support. They're going to need human connection. They're going to need time. They're going to need flexibility. They need to be empowered to say, hey, I need help. And it's a whole person approach, right? So, and I use bereavement. I mean, obviously that's an extreme one, but it's even things like somebody's going through a medical issue. You guys probably deal with injuries a lot because you guys do a very physical job. Injury is a big piece of it. Do you have the systems in place to support somebody and truly make sure that they get well and come back to work? Or are you just like, here's the thing, get it done, let us know when you're better? And if you're not better on this timeline, well, then too bad, so sad, work has to be done. This is where process really hits the road, is in care. Do you know what to do when? Because when you have that mastered, people will walk through walls for you, figuratively, obviously, but or hedges, as in your case, but they will go above and beyond because they know that when push comes to shove and something bad happens in their life or something challenging or even something good, they're going to be cared for as a whole person, as an individual. And that benefits everybody. And then the glue, so this is the fifth piece, but really it's the glue. It's the mortar that holds us all together, is consistency. Do these four things every day, every interaction, every decision, every conversation, over and over, forever. Doesn't matter how big you are. And consistency comes when you have process and systems that can be followed by everybody. And they've been clearly communicated and everybody knows. Yes, Mark.
I find this is great. Just want to put out a statement, excuse me, on the care point. And I've made this point before, so if I'm sounding redundant, my apologies. But um, just like being on an aircraft in an emergency situation, you have to put your own mask on first.
Absolutely.
Because if you pass out, you can't help anybody else. And I'm sure we've all had situations where, well, I've had a situation where I was absolutely overwhelmed by an employee's mental health challenges that I was not at all capable of managing, and it near broke me.
Mm.
And this was a toxic person, so the solution was to, accommodate as much as we could. But after a time, it was clear that this was what they call a silent killer, um, and that things were getting toxic and poison from inside. So we had to let him go, and letting him go was first and foremost self-care, and 1B would be team care, and 1C would be um, client care, because that kind of toxicity can bleed out in any direction at any time. So back to my original point, we have to make sure that we're healthy and strong so that we can help other people be healthy and strong. And that is all.
Absolutely. And when we talk about leadership, Mark, we will talk about the fact that you as a leader have to be, your well-being has to be paramount because again, as you said, you can't help people if you are struggling yourself. And when I work with companies and when we work on building culture and leadership culture, we work a lot on, are you doing the things you need to do to be well as a leader, to be healthy, to be strong, to be mentally capable? Are you building yourself and your development personally on a daily basis? Because if you're not doing that, you aren't going to be able to grow your company beyond how much you've grown. And so that's a really key element in that is your wellness, your mental wellness, your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, all of it. How you run your company will depend on how well you are. And so that's a really, really key point. The other piece of that I would take is this is where having processes and systems in place ahead of time, when you hit a road bump like this with an employee that you know you have to exit, but how do you do it in a way that keeps you as a company safe and also meets their needs as much as you possibly can and does it as humanely and as humanely as you can, because exiting somebody is terrible. Like it's just hard. Even when you absolutely know they have to go and it is absolutely the right decision, it is still, at least for me, was always the hardest part of what I did was having to tell somebody they either didn't get the job or they couldn't keep the job because you're affecting somebody's ability to feed themselves, to house themselves, to take care of themselves. And that feels like a really large burden, but you also are responsible for everybody else in that company and for feeding and housing yourself. And so if you have somebody who has to go, if you have a well communicated, clearly laid out process, it takes some of that emotional and mental burden off of you as the leader. Because you can say, this is how we do this, and this is why. And here's the things that we hit. Here's the milestones that we've hit that say this has got to go. And here's how we make sure that you exit in a way that is productive. And if you have to walk them to the door, like again, I worked in tech and I worked in human capital. I cannot tell you how many people had to be, you don't get 2 weeks notice. You get walked to the door. You are lucky if you get to empty your desk. Like they walk you out. It is brutal. And even if you're just being laid off and you haven't even done anything wrong, they walk you out. They don't give you time to transition your clients. They don't give you time to transition your accounts. They don't give you time to talk to your candidates. They don't give you time to say goodbye to your coworkers or employees. They just walk you to the door. Bye-bye. So sad. It's horrendous. It is humiliating. It is devastating as a person. We've in this industry, every single person in this industry has experienced that at least once, usually multiple times, because companies think that recruiting is not important until they need people. And so they're the first people to go and they're the first people to get hired back. It's the silliest cycle. But anyways, that's a different conversation. So yes, Mark, you're right. It is very important, but it comes back to that core piece of taking care of yourself, taking care of your employees, and taking care of your company means you have to have your systems and processes in place. That's a whole other lecture I do, not lecture, but like presentation and workshop is where we build process for hiring, for retention, and for exiting. Nobody in any industry I've worked in the human capital world, talks about exiting people. That is one of the most traumatic things any company does. That is one of the hardest things leaders do. But it has to be done, and it has to be done well. And most people do it terribly because they have no preparation, process, or plan.
So,
So,
Havila, I'm going to
yeah,
jump in there
yeah,
briefly. We're
sorry.
getting lots of interaction. I think a lot of people, this is setting off a lot of bells for people. So for people on this call, I would love to hear from you on the survey at the end. If you are interested in talking about how to exit people, those sorts of things that Havila is talking about, these are the things I need to know in order to expand EOC so that our people can, so that all of you can be more successful. To that, I'm going to ask Justina's question. What type of leadership training would you recommend for a leader to grow?
It depends. So that's a very loaded question. And the only reason it's loaded is because it somewhat depends upon where you are in your business growth and development. So whether you're an owner, whether you're a manager inside of a bigger company, whether you're, it just depends upon where you are, what kind you do. Basically, the basic is, are you as an individual working on improving your leadership skills, your how you respond to things. So personal development is the industry word for it. Are you doing your own personal development 10 minutes, half an hour a day? Are you doing that? That's step number one for leadership development. And then the second piece is going in and seeing where you are in your growth cycle and what you need support in. So leadership development is very individualized and specific based on company, on intention, on goals, and on the individual. But really, the basic line is if you're not daily growing yourself, you will, that's step number one. And then once you start to really develop yourself and you say, oh, here are my gaps, then we can work with leadership development and say, okay, this is where you need coaching, this is where you need support, this is where you need education. I hope that answers the question.
I think it's a good start. We have Andrea who is looking to ask a question. Andrea, on the very bottom left of your screen, there's a mic image. If you just touch the very low, there you go.
Yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
good.
Feel free.
It wasn't so much a question. It was just something that we do here specifically when it comes to it's sort of one of our foundational thoughts is that as our leadership, as we move up the chain, it is entirely the responsibility of our leadership to enable the success of their teams. If somebody is not succeeding, then we have a duty to not keep them in a position where they're going to be consistently failing. And to do that with compassion and care that we've sort of established that entire relationship. So it makes that whole process a lot less distressing when it's understood in that context and we've got clarity from the beginning in that.
Right. Not everybody's going to be a leader. Not everybody should be a leader. If
Yep.
you want people to be leaders, you need to be training them for and assessing them for leadership the minute they walk through your front door.
Yep.
Probably even in the interview process. Is this somebody who can grow? Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, we can't all be leaders in the sense of managers, but every employee needs to know how to lead themselves at a minimum, even if they're not good at leading other people. And you know what? A lot of people aren't good at leading other people, and that's okay. Some leadership can be trained, but there has to be a desire. And I watch too many companies try to force people who are really good at their job, who are subject matter experts, who are particularly good at a problem solving in one way, push them into management. They don't want to manage. They will lead from the position they're in. What they need is recognition, empowerment. And this is where, like, again, in the tech world, where I've spent the last half of my career, in the tech world, it's about being a subject matter expert. But in your space, it could very easily be you have a guy who he can bring the life out of any shrub there is. Like, it can be pretty much DOA, and you're like, there's no chance this thing is surviving. And he'd be like, give me a week. I'll get it going. And boom, this person just does shrubs like nobody else. Knows how to prune them, knows how to feed them, knows how to love them. Who knows? Maybe they sing to them and it works. Like, whatever it is. But this person doesn't want to lead a team of shrub people. This person just wants to do their shrubs every day. That's what they are expert at. Great. You have an expert. You have a problem property. He gets to go and be the expert and, saves the shrubs, saves the customer money. They don't have to replace their shrubs. Everybody feels happy. It's good. Again, I'm using hypotheticals. You know where in your business this applies better or not, but that's sort of the idea of it. So yes, you are right, Andrea. That is key but this all comes back to when you've communicated and you have that connection and you've built the community and they know you care and you've done it consistently
Yeah.
and clearly and they have the process in front of them. Yeah. So process is funny. It shows you the roadmap, but it also gives you the exit ramps, right? It gives you the path forward, but it also gives you the exit ramps. When you have process and you have communicated that process with clarity and consistently and frequently
Yep.
is key. Frequency is very important. That creates buy-in, right? Because then you're saying, the process. Are we meeting these expectations? No. Okay. Where do you want to proceed? Do you want to continue in the position you're in because you're doing fine right here, but there is no more space for you to go forward? You will continue to get income up levels every month, every year for cost of living, but you're not going to progress past this point in this company. You understand that? Yes. Okay, great. We all need the worker bees. We don't have a company without the worker bees. They are our bread and butter. If they are happy doing what they do, keep them that way.
They are your raving employees.
Yeah, they become your raving fan employees. And so process is what people talk about when they leave a company, right? They talk about how you hire, what you do to retain them, how you train them, how you exit them. They talk about how you communicate, how you connect. I blocked one of mine. How you show that you care. What does empowerment look like? How they're rewarded. Rewarded is a big piece of it. Oh, weird. Okay, sorry. All the processes that seem simple, everyday, and boring, those are what your culture really is. So again, I'm beating this process drum probably to death, but it is the foundation that everybody misses. And you get a raving fan employee when they show up and they know what to expect. They know how they're going to grow. They know what they need to do if they want to raise. They know who to talk to when they're having a challenge or a problem or their personal life has gone to hell and they need help. They can come and say, this whole thing is happening and I don't know how to help it and I can't show up for work and do work and I'm just losing my mind. And if you have somebody who is normally a really good worker and all of a sudden things are going very, very bad, don't put them on a performance plan. Go ask them a question. What's going on in your life, dude? Do you need help? Because I really care. I'm not being nosy. Like, are you okay? Do you need support? What do you need? How can I help you? And that piece of it is so shocking to people because they don't expect it. Because they've been trained to expect to be disposable, to be ignored, to be, if I'm not performing, I'm not worthy, I'm not valued, I'm not important. Now, performance is important, but so is the rest of their life, and work is only a piece of it. So that's sort of how I was going somewhere. I'm so sorry. The train just fell off the track.
Havila, I think we were still part of the way down the first slide, which is not a bad thing. I'm simply saying that I think that people are really engaged, and if you're able to stay on a bit longer, then we can keep on talking.
Sure.
We've still got 24 minutes left. I'm calling that out for anyone who has hard stops at 1 p.m.
Yeah, so that's sort of where we are. And again, I'm just going to repeat that culture is really about how you conduct your business daily, how you communicate, how you connect, and how you show you care. It's why people stay or leave. If you've ever heard the expression, people don't leave companies, they leave managers. This is absolutely true. So, what creates a raving fan employee is consistency, predictability, expectations being known, and how you show them you care. Now, I'm going to switch a little bit into leadership here for a second. Okay, why is this not working? Hold on. There we go. Okay. So we talked a little bit about leadership. Leadership starts, a culture starts with leadership.
Pamela,
Yes.
sorry, you said something at the very end there. People don't leave companies, they leave managers, and then you said three things. What were those things?
Oh dear.
Because I am making notes and I'm like picking out the.
They were around
This is great.
predictability and expectations.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. People stay because they know what to expect. It's predictable, and they know that you care. Like they know how they know that they can ask questions and be heard and seen and all of that. They're empowered, right?
Got it. Thank you.
Quite what I said, but that's generally what I was going for. Um,
Leadership.
so go ahead.
Leadership.
Leadership, that's it. So culture starts with leadership. And I see so many companies, particularly the bigger they get, this really starts to happen when you get over that about 50, 55 to 100 employee mark. Leadership gets more separated from the day-to-day activities, which is fine. That's normal growth. That should be happening. You should have people under you at that point who are managing. That leadership does get pulled back a little bit. You're less in the field every day. You're doing more of the in between, and there's just a lot of business that gets managed that isn't day-to-day actual work, but it's work for you. So that's normal. But what I mean is leadership tends to disconnect from the day-to-day work that's being done by the people who keep your company running, who build your Raving Fan customers. It's not the leadership that builds Raving Fan customers. It's your guys and girls in the field who are doing the work every day, who are showing up when it's 100 degrees, who are showing up when it's -2 degrees, who, who show up regardless of it because they feel like what they do matters. The work they put in. I mean, like right now, if you guys have teams out there doing ice and snow removal, that's critical. That's not like, oh, it's nice, it's just how we fill the winter. It keeps people safe. It keeps businesses open. It makes sure people can leave their house. I mean, I come from the DC area, not where I grew up, but where I lived for 27 years in the DC area. And right now they're dealing with what they're calling snowcrete. They literally have 6 inches of compact snow and sleet that they cannot move. People are locked in their houses by this horrible stuff. And so people are having to go around and they're paying people to come in with like metal icebreakers to break it up and move it out so they can leave their house. So again, it's in helping your guys and girls know that what they do really matters. And that is a leadership piece. And that's where you embody that every day. Like what we do matters, what you do matters, how you work matters. And it matters to our customers and it matters to me and it should matter to you as the employee because it's your work, it's who you are. And it's how we show up and become a known company in the marketplace. So that's, oh, sorry. I get too, see, this is why I have to have notes because I get very excited and just lose track of where I'm going.
David just put in the chat, we don't do snow, but my understanding is that historically snow can be the single largest revenue stream for some employees. And David says you're doing amazing.
Thank you. I have to put my glasses on because now I can't see. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is what I was going to say. Leadership, and I'm not saying anybody does this, but this is just a general note. Leadership, particularly in the industry you're in, should never be sitting in the nice, cool, or warm office every day just dictating what everybody does. You guys got to show up. You got to show up. You got to check on your people. You got to check on your jobs. You got to check on your customers. You got to check about what's going out there. You got to make sure that your guys have enough water. You got to make sure your guys and gals have enough food. You got to make sure that they're taking breaks and have shelter. You got to make sure that if it decides to bucket rain and thunder and lightning and hail, because those things happen, they have shelter and they can get to it quickly and they know what is the process. If this, then that. They understand what the decision tree is and how to execute it, right? So leadership has to go out and be seen. Maybe not every day. It depends upon your business. But basically, you show up daily, whether that's for your office staff, for your field staff. If you do morning meetings, you don't just let your supervisors do it. You show up. You're not watching them. You're interacting with them. You're there to support them. Anybody have any questions? Hey, we've got a couple extra special things today. These are the things I need everybody to focus on. Whatever it is, you show up daily. You're approachable. You listen. and you're consistent in how you respond. This is really key. Everybody wants to talk about equality and equity. It's really consistency. You create equality and equity when you're consistent. Not because somebody needs something special, but because everybody gets the right response in the environment, in the thing. Well, I'm having this problem. Great. This is how we resolve that problem with everybody, no matter who you are. Consistency is the glue that holds everything else together. Consistency. So I will beat that drum until you all want to probably throw it out the window. The other part of this is servant leadership. And then I don't know if has everybody heard, just give me a general head nod. Has everybody heard or understand what servant leadership is?
I
Some people
have.
get, some people get a little
Jason?
squirrely about it.
Sorry, it's not me. No. I
No.
get it.
No, we're just wondering how many of you have even Drake put a reaction in the chat. How many people have heard of servant leadership? What that means to be a servant leadership style? Julia says yes. Andrea from Clintar says it's our foundation. Havel, I think it might be helpful if you go over it. Haley has not heard of it, so it'd be
Okay.
helpful if you went over it. Thank you. Daniel says no as well.
Okay, so the basics of servant leadership is that you are there to serve the people who work for you, that you work with them, that you are a partner in it, and that you understand as the leader that without the people doing the work, you don't have a company, you don't have a job. Your job as the leader is to take care of and make sure your workers have what they need to do their job every day and to do it well and to be cared for. So that's servant leadership. It's not hard, but people get a little squirrely when they hear, well, means I have to just do whatever they need. I have to like serve them. Serving somebody does not mean being a doormat. It does not mean not having boundaries. Actually, quite the opposite. Servant leadership requires you to be completely confident in your leadership with really good boundaries that allows you to show up and help where help is needed when it's needed. It allows you to do that care part exceptionally well. And these are the things that people go and tell other people about. Oh my gosh, I work for this company and you are never going to believe the things they do. Now, what you want them to say at the end of that, the things they do, is the good things. You don't want them to be like, oh my gosh, you would never believe this leadership. They never tell us anything, and then they just expect us to work extra. Whatever. Right? Like, you want them to be like, this company's amazing. I love my job, and here's why. These people truly care about us. Oh my gosh, this company gave us a picnic, and we all hung out, and I have my best friends come from work. I have 3 families. Oh, our wives, our kids, everybody gets along. It's so much fun because we all love each other at work. Not everybody's going to love each other at work. It's not kumbaya. But they are a part of a community, and because you as a leader have said, I am here to serve our community, I will help us get there. And if you need help, I'm here to care for you. So it's the idea of a shepherd, and a shepherd is more than just managing sheep. A shepherd makes sure that the predators don't get them. A shepherd makes sure that the bugs stay off of them. The shepherd makes sure that everybody is accounted for and is okay and not injured. And if somebody is injured, the shepherd comes and makes sure that they get back to the fold in a safe way, right? It is very much a biblical based servant leadership, but it is something in the secular world that sets companies apart and creates raving fan employees. So this is, and I think a big one too is you are never too high up to not do the work. You got somebody out sick, you got a team who's struggling, you got a customer who needs a little extra support, you better show up and be willing to get dirty. Dirty. Oh, I have my office clothes on today. Keep what we used to call on recruiting a Superman suit on the back of your door. Do you got work boots? Do you got jeans? Do you got a work shirt? Do you got your gloves? Go. Get out there. Go get dirty. Because when they see you show up and do the work, oh, well, we're all equal. Well, not equal, but equal is kind of a weird word. We're all in this together was really what it comes down to. that person is, yes, they run the company. Yes, they're in charge. Yes, they're my supervisor. But also, they see I'm struggling and they're coming in to help. You're never going to believe the manager I work for. He's amazing. I was struggling. We were so behind on this job. He showed up, gloves, work boots, shovel. We got it done. We all got to go home on time. Right? Like these are the things that people talk about. And even when they leave your company, you want them to be like, yeah, I left that company because XYZ, but they're totally the best company to work for. I'd work for them again in a minute. That's what you want. That's a raving fan, right? They're doing your recruiting for you. They're building your customers for you. They're doing a lot of the heavy lift because they love where they work. And just be the example to your employees. I mean, this is a super condensed version of leadership, but this is the type of leadership you have to embrace to build the culture that creates raving fan employees and gets everybody rowing in the right direction, builds a company that is unflappable. I mean, it does not matter if you hit the worst of times or the best of times. Everybody is in it together and they know it. It's embodied, it's lived, it's real. It's not just lip service. And that's where you start with this type of leadership. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. Yes, I actually got it all done. Oh, let's see what happened. There we go. So I did miss one thing I want to go back and say. Let me just, this is why I have my notes so I don't forget these things. Hang on. So again, I want to say culture and process in this manner, and I think I'm going to actually make myself a little mean out of it. The measure of culture is the strength of your process or your systems, however you want to call it. The measure of your culture is the strength of your process and systems. Because if those are not rock solid, the 4 pillars don't matter. Consistency won't happen. And people will always be frustrated. And when you have a frustrated employee, you have somebody who's on their way out. And that's not what we want. We want people who are raving fans who come and build with you, not for you, because they feel that they have a purpose, they belong, and they have a reason, and they're valued. When people feel valued, they will outproduce even the most skilled worker because they want to see you succeed because your success equals their success. So
Pamela, I'm going to ask you to say that one more time. Measure of culture is the strength of your process.
the measure of culture is the strength of your processes and systems.
Thank you. I'd love to see that meme. I think some other people would too.
Sometimes I say
And
things
we
I'm like,
are-
oh, I gotta write that down.
And we're at 9 minutes until
All
1.
right. Well, again, the survey looks like it has popped up, so do definitely do that with Lindsay. For Lindsay, questions, comments, things you want more information on. I will say, if you want more, I do workshops on how to attract and hire, how to retain, and how to exit people. I break those into 3 pieces because they're all 3 very weighty and very dense subjects. We work with leadership culture and leadership development, exit strategies, which is probably the thing people don't talk about. They talk about founders and owners exit strategies, but they don't talk about what do you do when somebody leaves your company and you have a gap. How do you prepare for that? How do you plan for that? How do you deal with that? Or you have to exit somebody, or God forbid, but it happens because life and business happen, you have to do a layoff. How do you do that in a way that keeps those people a raving fan employee? Because you can do it and keep them as raving fan employees. It doesn't have, it's always going to be brutal, but it doesn't have to be bloody. Like it really doesn't. So those are sort of the things that I also work with. And I know Lindsay and I have talked about some of them. So do let her know if you have any other interests, and we could certainly work on some additional workshops. And if you have very specific questions or you want very specific information, feel free to reach me at havala@habstrategy.com. So questions, thoughts, more information. I can talk for days, so I'll stop now.
So I have a feeling that Mark, or Andrew, or possibly David will have questions. Natasha's put a question in. Do you have any suggestions for newer manager entering corporate into a company with less structure to positively enforce new structure and culture with older employees? Brilliant question. I have a feeling Havla's going to want to process this a little bit with you. So Natasha, if you want to come off mute, you're more than welcome to chime in.
Bye, Mark. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your great comments and questions too.
Thank you.
So okay, that's a really good question, Natasha. And this goes into the topic of how do you manage up, right? I don't know if you've ever heard that, but managing up a lot of times, and this was something I learned somewhat the hard way and somewhat it can be a brutal lesson because it is a very tender space in which you are trying to manage above you in a way that affects real change. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. What I would suggest is not knowing what your specific situation is or what your particular level is or what is or isn't involved is I would start to demonstrate how having consistent processes and structure in the parts of the business you own are making a difference. And then having conversations with your leadership that says, look, we have this great thing. Well, we call it the it's a good, bad, good. It's a sandwich. You make a sandwich out of it. It's a good, bad, good sandwich. You do this sometimes in HR too, which I don't particularly love, but like, we're going to let somebody go and we're going to tell them something good. We're going to tell them the bad news, then we're going to tell them something else good. It's sort of insulting, but in your case, this is a really good, like, we have this thing that works. It could work so much better if. Would you be open to looking at or doing or changing? And here's the solution I'm suggesting. And here's how I've already proofed it, right? Don't just come with what you want changed or things you want to execute or things that come with the solution and how you've proofed it. Well, I have used this in a previous company and it worked really well, and this was the results. So it's approaching it with, hey, I get that we're doing okay, but do you want to do better? Do you want to do more? Do you want to improve? We have a really so pick the problem. We're our retention. So retention is your ability to hold on to employees. That's what retention means. I probably should have defined that. Retention is your ability to hold on to employees. So what we measure is retention rate. So for every person you hire, how many people are staying and for how long before they exit? And why are they leaving? Right? So then we look at that as your retention rate. So if you notice that, hey, we're hiring new people every month, we're hiring 5 people every month, and we're losing 3, your retention rate is 2. That's terrible, right? That's awful. So what you want to say is our retention rate, is you can do percentages that requires mathing, and mathing and I are not always friends. So I like very simple numbers. But we're hiring 10 people a month and we're losing 8. That's unsustainable. There's just not enough people to hire to continue at this rate. And it's costing us. So here's the thing people don't realize. I don't know in your industry specifically because I haven't looked at the numbers, but I know in the tech industry where I have spent most of the last few years, it's 40% of the previous person's salary is what it costs to replace them, on top of what you're paying this person. So it is much more economical and affordable to keep the people you already have than to continue to bring new people in. And it's damaging your employer reputation. So if that is the problem, then I would say, Natasha, you go and you say, look, our retention rate is terrible. Here's what we're losing. Here's what it's costing us to replace them. And here's where we're damaging our employer brand and people don't want to work for us anymore. So what if we did this instead and it will increase our retention rate potentially by this amount? And now we're making more money and we're spending less money and we're making a better reputation. So it's providing not just a problem, and I think this could work. It's here's how it's been proved. So does that help, Natasha? It's a sticky thing, and it's something that, and there's going to be management. I'm going to be totally frank with you, just be like, nope, not interested. This is how we do it. And then you got a choice. Stick it out, continue doing what's broken, or be like, okay, I'm going to be one of your retention exits. Bye-bye.
I read this morning on one of the Canadian HR newsletters I get that employee turnover costs Canadian companies more than 30,000 per departure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shocking amount of money. I think we all naturally know that it's high. I don't think anybody truly knows the staggering costs.
Because you're paying for the recruiting, you're going to pay this new person more. You just are. Because every time you lose somebody, the people behind them are making more money already. You are paying to train them. You're paying for a new set of benefits. Like it just adds up so fast. It just adds up so fast. And again, in the tech industry, I've seen it as high as $100,000 a candidate in additional cost to replace somebody.
And David points out in landscape and horticulture, and specifically in Ontario, we've got such a big gap. And he points out that skilled, knowledgeable labor is so scarce in this industry. I've seen it in abundance in myself.
So
Just the
one of my
differences.
questions to all of you would be, if this is a consistent problem across the industry, what are things that you can do as a company, as a leader, to fill that gap or to bridge that gap so that you start getting, are you building your own skilled labor? Are you educating the people you have? Are you empowering them? Are you showing young adults that this is actually a very, I mean, again, I think about it as like electricians, right? People think electricians are just kind of, they're electricians, it's a blue collar job, whatever. Electricians basically have to have a master's degree to do their job, to do it independently. Without it, if they're a journeyman, they have to be with a master electrician. But to be a master electrician, the number of years required to study is the equivalent of a master's degree. And you can't be dumb because you will die. Right? Like, and I think about it as tree guys too, like arborists.
Mm-hmm.
Arborists have to know all the different kinds of trees. They have to know the diseases, the bugs, what makes a tree strong, what makes it weak. Can I climb it? Do I need to bucket truck it? Am I going to die if I go up in it? Right? Like, yeah, there's a lot of hacks out there, and a lot of them die and drop trees on houses and other things. But showing that what you do matters and impacts the greater community, not just it's a nice to have and oh, this is so lucky you get to have a landscaper, but like what the value add is starts to make it attractive to more people. Oh, I have to be smart to do that? And I get to be outside every day? And people really appreciate what I do? So that's what I would say. Hang on one second, David. I see you. I also see a question here. Have a learning plan for each employee. Can they set some goals for each year and work with them to help them achieve their goals? Yes, absolutely. That's a very good way to retain people. What do you want to get better at? What do you want to know more about? How do you want to progress in your career? Well, right now I'm a shrub dude. I'd like to learn about trees. All right. What do they need for education? To be an arborist, to be the climber, to be the roper, to be the chainsaw person, like all the different things that tree people do, right? Like if you watch a tree crew, I'm sure you guys know this, they all have very specific roles in what they do and how they do it, and each one has a different level of knowledge and education. So yes, that is a great way to create retention, is creating defined goals every year that help them progress in their career to where they want to be. Absolutely, that's a brilliant idea. Hang on one second. And I have colleagues who are disappointed the lack of mentorship in our trade informal jobs. Yeah, mentorship is a huge part of it. Huge. And again, if you go out to trade schools and say, hey, we're willing to mentor students, guess who's going to come work for you? So anyways, David.
Thanks again. Everybody, all the presenters have been good, but you've done an excellent job of fitting the material and presenting it. in a way that allows us time in the time that we were given. So I really appreciate that. My challenge right now that I just is coming up. So we're tiny, and one of the ways that I try and make sure that I can scale up and scale down without and also have people come back is I often hire people who have another job or way of making money.
Mhm.
And that, but the problem there is like one guy I had working with me last year, we were just having conversations about coming back this year. He just got promoted in his other role, other job, which has nothing to do with landscape and gardening. But in before his promotion, he could take home 50 plus an hour, right? So it's kind of like, well, he works in the service industry, but he's skilled service, like he's a bar person. And I've had staff like that before. In fact, one of my best ever star staff was a mixologist, and she owned her own condo. And then she's now become a landscape architect, and we're still in touch. But the point is, one of the things I think that's really hard, like another staff person that I'm still in touch with, he's now an arborist and making 90 a year, right? Like for the city in Ottawa. It's really hard for us to compete in terms of what we pay people. And this city is just off the charts expensive. Like it's insane. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could speak to that, but
So what are you asking specifically?
well, I mean, because we don't pay, I don't think we pay poorly. I mean, my best staff, my best regular staff personnel is probably going to get 29-30. They've been in the industry. They've been with us for this will be their 8th year, I believe. But well, like, what can we offer? Like suggestions for what we can offer when we, especially for small companies, right? Like, what can we offer that can help? Like, I offer a lot of flexibility. Like, if somebody needs something, I'm like my statement is slavery ended long ago, right? Like, you need to take time off. You need to take time off. You just tell me. I try and accommodate in those kinds of ways. It gets tricky because sometimes people, yeah, but what else?
David,
Like, are just suggestions for what we can give when it
I think
can't
your
just be
question
money.
is, David, I think your question is what sort of value adds can you suggest to promote your organization separate from the pay?
Yeah. So
And then
it
we'll wrap
sounds
up
also
after.
like you have a lot of part-time people versus permanent employees. So are you, and again,
No, they're permanent. They're seasonal permanent. So they get hired, but and every year they get an offer that clarifies for this month to this month, you can expect this many hours. But I asked them, what are you looking for this year? Right? Like we're having those conversations now.
okay.
Um, yeah.
So I think honestly, you are always going to be a little bit on the back end of the curve simply because you are looking for very seasonal work in very constrained time frames, and you are usually looking at people who have other positions because it's not a year-round full-time job, right? So you're always going to be playing in a field that's already distracted. So I think really and it's great that you're flexible with them and that's awesome, but it also affects your ability to do your job and meet your client needs. So it's again, I think building some processes that you can say, hey, look, when you come to us and you get to do this, we will help you with education, right? We've already mentored people into these other roles. And then making sure that when they leave those into those other roles or they get better jobs or whatever, that they come back and they remember you and you're like, hey, I need some, can you refer me some people? Can you send me some jobs? Like these are things, and then you give them a piece. You just give them a piece. Like tech companies do this all the time because hiring in tech is really hard. They give referral bonuses. You send me a qualified person who works for me for 90 plus days, you get $100. Whatever, right? It doesn't even have to be a lot. It just acknowledges that they're giving you something and you're not just being like, what can I have for free? Right? Like it's a transaction. And business is transactional. It's relationship, yes. But at bottom, business requires transaction. And I think as a small company, at the end of your season, make sure you have conversations that give you a heads up as to what else is happening in their life in the season that they're off so that you can prepare that oh, that person's probably not coming back, right? So already at the end of your season, you start having your conversation sooner so that people go into the off season knowing that when the season starts again, oh, I actually have a job already. I don't have to go out and spend the off season freaking out about it. So that would be my, without knowing more specifics, it's being small and being very seasonal is going to create more challenges than it is if you're full time and you have regular employees and you can pay them more competitively. Um, the people who want seasonal work, though, want seasonal work.
And to your
People
point,
who
Havla,
want
around
full-time work want full-time work. So yes, I'm sorry, Lindsay, we need to.
you're the whole point of what you've been saying. If you have a system and a process that's consistent, you follow year in, year out, you know questions to ask, you know how to follow up with them. Oh, this person's doing this. This might be a tough time. I'm going to check in with them, see how they're doing, make sure they're still interested in coming back. If that's a system and a process you build in, it's going to
Right.
be less of a lift.
Think of it as sales.
Yeah.
Right? You have to sell this job every single year to somebody. So people take up to 12, take at least 12 touches to make a sales decision, right? To make a yes or no decision. Same thing is true with the job. Same, particularly when you're dealing with seasonal work. Hey, so you just have you have a system that has strategic follow-up points throughout the off season so that when you get to the on season, you already know who your team is and what you're paying them and where you're going with it. You already have your customers lined up. You already have your staff lined up. You're good to go because you put the reps in during the off season. You continue to train, basically.
We are at time, everyone. We still have almost half the people attending. So Jason points out that Landscape Ontario offers apprenticeship and training opportunities for employees that want to progress in your company. Yeah, we have our CAP program. We have other programs that can help you in the off season. It's exactly what they're there for. Havila, we will definitely be in touch. There's definitely people interested in hearing much more from you. So that is very, very exciting. I'm very glad to hear it. Everyone, thank you very much for joining. Havila, thank you for your time, for your expertise, for your kindness, your compassion. And I look forward to when we meet again.
Yes, thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone. Lots of thumbs up. Thank you for the presentation and company. And our company does direct seasonal employees for learning for employees, seasonal employees for, no, disappeared. Thank you for the presentation. And our company does direct our seasonal employees for Ontario for opportunities within. Well, that's great. Thank you, Manaz.
That took me a minute to read too. I don't know why that was hard.
Havla, I'm jumping in straight into my next call.
Okay.
We will definitely be in touch, probably maybe not next week, but certainly the week after.
I am out that back half of next week, so next week is crazy for me anyways, so the week after is way better. And if you can just get me the recording at some point, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, we're happy to do that. I should be able to get that to you by Friday.
Perfect. No rush. All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Havla.
Lindsay.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.